Call this meeting to order. This is the Breezy Point City Council. It's May 4th, and this is a regular meeting of the City Council. First order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next order of business is our consent calendar. You have the council minutes from April 6th, April 7th, and April 27th, or April 6th and April 27th special meeting. And we have the approval of claims totaling $158,349.02. Check numbers 1256E through 1258E. 131,949 through 132,001. Is there anything you would like to see pulled off the consent calendar? Councilman Barone?
No.
Councilman?
No.
No.
Buchan?
No, sir.
I'll entertain a motion for the acceptance of the consent calendar.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next item of business is our auditor's report, and Molly Thompson from our auditor is here, just walked in the door, so we're ready to hit her hard. The memo that you see put together by staff kind of outlines what went on with the audit, and the audit was quite successful. And I think one of the things that I would like to highlight is one of the last paragraphs there. Summary is we're doing well financially, but the budgets right now are basically cut to the bone. We do not have much more wiggle room in the budget. So, Molly, I will turn the floor over to you.
Sure. I'm going to just hand out a quick little summarized presentation that takes the big documents and hopefully makes it a little smaller for you.
Thanks, Molly.
Yep. So again, my name is Molly Thompson, and I am here to present the audited financial statements for the year ended 2014. And you should have already probably received the big documents that we had mailed or emailed, I'm not sure which. And again, I'm going to concentrate on this smaller document, but certainly if you have detailed questions as I go through it, just indicate that, and we will address those as we go. So the first page here discusses the audit results, and we issued what we call an unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of accounting. So by regulatory basis, that's what the state of Minnesota requires the basis for you to be on. It's essentially cash basis. This next page details your general fund budget. So on point with what your mayor just said. Couple things that you'll notice, some fluctuations here between your budget, which is in the left column, your actual in the middle, and then your variances. Your property taxes and special assessments, you see one is down, one is up. Part of that is just that you changed your allocation of your property taxes between funds. And then there was an increase on collections and special assessments this year. License permits and fees were up this year just due to the number of, they were up, sorry. Just due to the number of permits that were put out this year. And then the big change that you're going to see is on your operating transfers in. You budgeted $52,000 and you transferred roughly $295,000. That's money from sewer for the White Birch project. And then down under your expenses, you'll see general government was up a little bit, and police. Those relate to some increased road improvement costs and legal fees. And then down under your capital outlay, you see that you're over budget about $186,000. That again relates to the White Birch project. And then under the transfers out, they were a little higher than budgeted due to transfers to the revolving capital fund. Any questions? In total, you kind of came in right on budget. It's just that between the lines was a little bit different. So.
And that's where this 316
Yep.
comes in, is where,
You're down to the bare bones.
Bare bones.
You are absolutely right. This next page concentrates on your governmental funds, so basically your debt service and your revolving capital fund. And the big number here that you'll see is down under your disbursements. You had debt payoff to the tune of $2.4 million, and that's related to the payoff of your 2005, 7, and 8 bonds that occurred this year. So again, big change on that fund. The next page are what we call your non-major governmental funds, so your cemetery fund and your EDA fund. Nothing really significantly changed in this fund. Pretty typical activity for both of these compared to the prior year. And then on your enterprise funds, you had total charges of, this is your sewer fund, of roughly $370,000, operating disbursements of $259,000, and then you had some non-operating income of about $141,000. So you generated cash of $252,000, but then you had capital outlay and operating transfers to the tune of $779,000. So you actually had a decrease in your cash in your sewer fund of roughly $526,000 this year. And again, part of that relates to the White Birch project. So that's pretty short and sweet on the numbers. Were there any particular questions that you had for me regarding the numbers? Again, we try to take this big document and kind of get you to the highlights. And again, you're still reporting on the cash basis, so your balance sheet essentially is your cash accounts at the end of the year.
anybody have any questions for Molly at this point?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
On the back piece of this, we do have a couple other things that we report for you in this smaller blue document. This is our opportunity as the auditor to basically let you know if there's anything going on in the city that you should be aware of. And that is basically a clean report. Other than we have the same internal control findings that we've had in the past. Those are improper segregation of duties just due to the fact that you have a very limited staff. So nothing unusual for cities your size. And then we do post some material adjustments that are typical year to year. They're actually in the document if you do want to see those. And then the third finding is just to make you aware that we do help draft the financial statements. So we're actually drafting those financial statements for you. And then we had one minor item on your legal compliance this year. The schedule of indebtedness was filed a couple days late this year. So again, just a minor finding. Otherwise, we do test all the areas, or 7 areas for cities, and we had no other legal compliance findings. Any questions on those?
In this report, in attachment B, you're talking about material weakness, and it's the first paragraph there. It says, during the course of our audit engagement, we proposed material audit adjustments that we believe would not have been identified as a result of the city's existing internal controls, and therefore could result in a material misstatement of financial statements. I would give, maybe because I'm not an accountant, I guess I
Yep.
didn't understand that.
What that is pointing to is if you go to the smaller document, the one that's less, there's 3 pages of adjusting journal entries.
Okay.
So that's what it's referring to. These are very typical adjustments that we actually assist with, because sometimes, a lot of times cities will kind of code some things based on their budget, but for accounting purposes, they have to go somewhere else.
Somewhere else.
Yeah,
Okay.
so these are very typical to what we see each year with the city. So there aren't any adjustments in here that I'm concerned about.
Okay.
It's more a matter of moving things to
Right.
an accounting home rather than a budget home.
Okay.
So,
We had talked about those ongoing during the budget meetings.
Yeah.
And it's the typical end of the year.
yep, and you're just like probably 90% of the cities we work with.
I just
so.
didn't understand the paragraph.
Yeah, no, we have some strange language.
Yep. And the other paragraph is just because we don't have that many people.
Exactly.
It's this, we
Yep.
had that boilerplate for
Yes,
quite a while.
yeah. You'd have to hire a few more folks to get
Right.
around that,
So
so.
as we grow,
Yep, exactly. So the audit went really, really well once again. Joe and Janae are very available to us, very timely, get us what we need when we ask for it. So everything went very, very well once again.
any questions? I'll start with you, Councilman Maroney.
No.
Councilman Schmidt.
The only, and I think every year I say the same thing, but when are we gonna do the switch over from cash to at least a modified accrual?
Well,
We were going to try to start that process this year, but due to staff vacancies from surgeries and what have you, we really didn't have time. We were behind almost all year round, just playing catch up. We've been slowly making inroads, but it's a long process. The biggest process is the inventory of assets and the valuation of those assets. So you've got to go back through the books and figure out how much a paved road costs, how much is depreciated, this sort of thing. So
yeah. So it's a little involved. The one thing you can do on the road costs to some extent is do a study.
sure.
And we could certainly get you some contacts for that. It's actually, when those studies first came out 10 or so years ago when everybody had to convert to GASB 34, they were not as expensive as we thought they were going to be. We don't do these studies, that's out of our wheelhouse, but what they would be today, I guess I don't know, but certainly we have some contacts, so.
Sure.
But you still have to, like Joe said, figure out all of the equipment at historical cost, and it's a big process, so. But say the word and we'll help you through it.
Councilman Buckman.
No, sir.
I will have to say that the audit did go very well, and I will have to say that, I also have to say that the relationship that we have developed between you and our staff here has just been very, very good.
Good.
And it's the type of thing we look forward to every year.
Wonderful.
So there's,
Good to hear.
there's no panic. Everything is right there. I think I have to commend both Joe and Janae for having it so well organized.
Yeah, no, they do a great job,
It
definitely.
takes a couple of days of their, concentrated involvement. So. Well, thank you very much.
Sounds great.
Can we get a motion to accept the audit?
Yes, I'll entertain a motion to accept the audit for the 2014 year.
So move.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Our audit is accepted. Thank you very much. Next order of business is the open forum. Anybody having any business whatsoever, you can come and address City Council at this point.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
Dave Johnson, 107.
come up to the, yep.
I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor, fellow councilmen, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Dave Johnson. I represent the Lake Osawatomie Lake Improvement District, and we have become concerned a little bit about what's going on over at Highview. I can remember back in 2006, 2007, that the homes moved down by the lake on those ramps There's supposed to be holiday version trailer houses. We have quite a selection down there at this point. We're a little bit worried about that. Plus, we're also concerned about the docks, the number of docks going in. In 2012, when another fellow and I counted them, we counted 27 boats anchored down at those docks. Last year, we counted 38. Do you folks have a limit per running feet of shoreline to how many docks can be allowed?
Off the top of my head, I do not think we do, and I remember looking at that packet for some other things that Dave Peterson had requested, and it's not very specific
Okay.
on that.
How about the trailers, the type of trailers?
I don't recall, but I do not think there was.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. One other
A
thing,
long time ago.
yes, I know, yeah, I agree. Mr. Mayor, I agree with you 100% on that. That's a while ago, and I cannot find the article that was in paper back in
Right.
06 or 08 regarding the ramps down there. And secondly, yesterday I noticed about 6 blocks to the west, we have a new boathouse built right on the shoreline.
We don't know anything about, yeah,
Do you issue permits here for?
we most certainly
Okay,
do.
there's a new home that was
And
built there, the
and
home has been remodeled.
there-
If somebody could take a look at it, we're concerned about that too. I do not know the exact address. It's on the south, it's down about 5 or 6 blocks from Highview. Yeah. Now, where can we take to get some answers on this Highview?
The,
The county?
well, the person to talk about permitting and things like that would be with our planner here, Jerry Bonsick. And he can, he's pulled the file for me before, and we've reviewed it then. So we do have that, and I'll be totally honest, it is somewhat disconnected as far as what the file says. But the other thing that is dealing with a boathouse being built, next to the shore, I mean, that is, not only is that a DNR issue, because you're not allowed to have those anymore, and secondly, they would have to have a permit to do that. And to the best of our knowledge, we know nothing about a permit.
Okay.
So the place to start is with our
With your
planning office
planner.
here.
Okay.
And then it can expand out from there.
And he's here during the week.
It's here Mondays and Fridays.
Monday and Fridays. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for open forum? Okay, open forum. Come forward.
Hi, my name is Don Mastersky. Both my wife and I are involved in the LID for OSSI and Lake Association, and she wanted me to ask you, what are the mowing plans for the ditches, like an OSSI road? She's interested in giving away to the members wildflower seeds, and especially milkweed for the butterflies. Do you have a mowing plan for the ditches, on the right of way? There's no sense in planting a lot of wildflowers if you guys are gonna come by every month or 6 weeks and mow them. I was just wondering if you could answer that.
I believe that I'll defer to our superintendent.
Right.
Typically, we mow the right-of-way once a year unless we get special requests to do more often. Usually, that's July, sometimes June, or as late as August. And it's just to primarily keep woody plants from growing. They cause us the most problems, so if we cut them once a year, they don't establish. And there's certain areas that we do avoid on request, as long as trees are not taking it over, I guess.
So if we specifically ask to not mow,
Stay up at the microphone, please.
if we specifically asked you not to mow? It seems like a power company is in there mowing more often than you guys.
Yeah, they probably are. It'd be something we could work on. I mean, instead of say mow when the flowers are blooming, we could do it later in fall.
Right, because that would.
That would
take care of the
still,
problem.
yeah, that would still accomplish eliminating woody material from thriving, but you'd get the benefit of the flowers as long as they're not causing a safety hazard.
Flowers, I don't think are.
Well,
Real danger.
tall vegetation hiding animals or whatever.
So
That's,
how can we come to a, don't mow until November, or don't mow until October?
we just have to get in contact with me and we'll work something out.
Okay, because she'd like to give out these packets and stuff at our annual meeting.
Okay.
Get it going. Thanks.
Yeah, that's the type of thing that I imagine you could probably work out, a no-mow zone or something like that. And once that's established, that's where you want to put your seeds. Okay, anybody else? Open forum. Open forum is closed. Next order of business is the mayor and council reports. First thing I would like to do is to finish up with the Pequot Lakes Fire contract that we had tabled from last meeting. During the last meeting, there was a question having to do with a sentence in the contract that said it is further agreed Breezy Point has no responsibility beyond paying the agreed amount payment other than changes identified above for acquiring, operating, maintaining, housing, or replacing equipment as needed to provide the fire described herein. And it was the issue of housing that was Councilman Williams had pointed out. The contract has been revised with that sentence stricken. So you have before you the revised contract with the new language. Is there any discussion that anybody would like to have on that, Councilman Maroney?
No.
Schmidt?
No.
Councilman Baca?
No.
Entertain a motion to approve the Pequot Lakes Fire contract.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Just
I think
further
we have
discussion. I'm sorry.
Discussion now. Joe, if my memory serves, at the last meeting, in addition to what Diane Williams had drawn our attention to, we had asked if there had been a review, side-by-side review with the previous and the proposed.
I didn't accomplish that. I assumed that you were fine with the fact that it had been expanded. I mean, I reviewed it to see what differences were, and it's basically just more, more language regarding what they're doing and what they're not. I mean, I could certainly get a copy of each to you if you'd like. I felt that the new contract was more explicit and better defined than the old one.
I found,
Go ahead.
Mayor, I found the information that was accompanying the stats to be of particular interest. And just looking at the information, the compilation of information, and they look at the amount of fire calls and whatever over a 10-year period, Pequot Lakes is head and shoulders above everybody else. They come in at 48% of the calls. Breezy has 25% of the calls. And then I look at what the city of Breezy is throwing into the kitty, and I understand that they do that based on what, assessed value or market value?
Market value of buildings, correct.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's problematic. I just, over the years, I wondered why they call it the City of Pequot Lakes Fire Department.
They established it and they're running it.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no further
Okay.
observation.
Councilman Baca?
No, sir, none.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the 2015-2016 contract, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? New contract is approved. Next item of business. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me finish this up first. I'd like to take a time to comment on the fly-in that we had last weekend. It was a marvelous success. I thought that was a huge benefit to the entire community. It brought a lot of attention, and not only did it bring a lot of people here, it brought a lot of interest in the area. And having that coordinated with Customer Appreciation Day over at the Commander and JJ's Pub, it was a really well-run event. I will have to compliment the airport as well as the Commander, Neil Narvison, for putting on a really nice, very enjoyable, family-friendly show. And it was indeed that. They had over 50 planes coming in here with that small jet. It was really impressive. It is something that I would really like to coordinate on for next year, to see if we can get something going, not only between, if the commander can do their appreciation, and if the airport wants to do another fly-in, I would greatly support, some city involvement. We could resurrect our city celebration day, and we could have stuff going on over here in the park with face painting and stuff like that for the kids, and make it a real community involvement, and maybe even get some stuff at the resort going on. So it was really, really a good day. And along that same line, I will have to say the fishing pier has been going. My wife walks by there on a daily basis, and every time she goes by there, there's people out there fishing. So that, again, it's kudos to our Park and Rec for getting that up and running, and kudos to our Public Works for getting the area all set up. That is another thing that is showing to be a great benefit to the city, and it's already getting a lot of use. Any other reports? Councilman Buchan?
No.
Councilman Barone?
I've heard great comments about the air. I still call it the air show for some reason, but the plane show. Heard a lot of comments, so that was well received, I think.
Councilman Schmidt?
I just have something to throw out for the council and for Joe. I had benefit of taking a look at that compost piles, multiple piles over at PLCC. And I think it might be something that we should look at. I know part of the problem is having the ability for some of us to actually go over there and load up the compost. And I'm wondering if it would be something that the city should consider to make an event, a city event on some Saturday, to open that up. Maybe have the front end loader available for people who show up with trailers or pickup trucks and dump the stuff in there. I mean, it looks to be pretty good stuff. And I know when I was over there and they were turning it over, it seems like it's, the composting is going quite well.
It's funny you should talk about that. Joe and I had this discussion at lunch today. And we're going to see if we can work something out in the future. He did point out that we may need the compost if it doesn't disappear this year at the Edgewater Inn site for topsoil. But yeah, it's something for the future to think about.
That's another thing. Forgot to mention we were supposed to have the training burn for the old Edgewater site, Noxie's. That had been canceled due to the burning restrictions. Do we have any other word as to
No, I
possibly could happen?
I checked with them on Friday, and they did not have a revised schedule yet. He will let me know when it does get
When we get
rescheduled.
enough rain,
Yeah, something like that.
like that. Okay, any other comments from the council? Okay, next item of business is the engineer's report for the paving on Snowman Circle and Thrain Drive. Tim, I'll turn that over to you. And
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you all know, the city has gone through quite a process, a special assessment process for the paving of Snowman Circle and Thrain Drive. Bids were taken by the city a bit ago. You did have your final special assessment hearing. There were no appeals. So in your package, you have, again, the recommendation letter from us on the 3 bidders and the bid tabulation, as well as a resolution for the council to consider. The resolution formally orders the project in and awards the contract for the improvements to Anderson Brothers Construction of Brainerd. And I will take any questions that you may have.
Any questions for our city engineer, Councilman Mahoney?
No.
Councilman Schmidt?
Nope.
Councilman Baca?
No. I'll move resolution 15-09.
Second to that motion?
Second.
Discussion? Councilman Schmidt?
No, well, the only wish I would have is that we could be doing more of this kind of thing, but I think your comments at the outset of the meeting about being on a bare bones budget has to be addressed. I think we're going to have to look at ways of completing some of these half-paved roads that we've discovered we have in town, and perhaps looking at expanding the pavement projects into some other areas. But that's the only comment I would have.
Okay. Councilman Maroney?
No.
Councilman Baca? No. All those in favor of Resolution 1509?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, 1509 is approved. Next item of business is the Personnel Committee, hiring of a Public Works, a new Public Works employee. I will turn this over to you, Councilman Maroney. Oh, never mind.
That's fine too.
Okay.
We had the opportunity, we had 23 applicants for the Public Works heavy equipment operator. Out of the 23, we did review 20 of them due to some people not meeting minimum qualifications. We interviewed 6 of the candidates. And the one that we are recommending, his name is Neil Carlson. He's worked with an excavator here in the Lakes area. And I believe he brought a wealth of knowledge along with experience using our machinery. And so that's what's in front of you tonight.
Okay. I will entertain a motion for the hiring of Neil Carlson at a starting salary of $16.78 per hour.
So moved.
Is there a second to that?
Second?
Further discussion? Councilman Schmidt?
None?
Councilman Becken?
None.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Welcome to Neil Carlson, our new Public Works employee. The next item is we have a ordinance update for ordinance 1502. Ordinance 1502. It's an update to the signs ordinance. It's in section 153.061. Public hearing was held in February and actually continued until April. It has to talk about the issue of banners. Some progress was made in the commission, so the commission has better understanding of the needs of the resort with their events. The issue is the resort buildings are being set back from the highway, and not having a building to place a banner on makes it difficult to deal with the clause "and shall not be freestanding" that is currently existing in the ordinance. Further compounding the issue is that we do not have a definition of freestanding. There's some thought about banners that should be regulated, and others felt that should be okay to have as an inexpensive approach to advertising. At this point, planning and zoning seems to be somewhat split on the issue. The issue we have before us is attempting to address this. They know that it is not the final issue. It's a short-term fix. And so consideration of ordinance 1502 would be appreciated. There's a line out copy that you have there, and basically it is just striking out the term "and shall not be freestanding." In other words, we will allow freestanding banners. And the term "as defined by this chapter" is eliminated because it is not defined in that chapter. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of ordinance 1502.
I'll make the motion for discussion.
Is there a second to that motion?
One second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion. Councilmember Roney.
Mr. Mayor, you had indicated that by striking "and shall not be freestanding" would allow it to be freestanding. However, how I read it is that it still states banners and streamers shall be allowed on the face of a building and shall not be allowed to deteriorate. This is still not allowing a freestanding banner. Therefore, I don't think this is addressing the issues that White Birch, pardon me, the participants in the discussion are trying to address with their buildings being set back from the highway, not having a building to place a banner on it. Again, reading that,
And I can see your point.
so it's not addressing the issue at hand still.
I can see your point. Councilman Schmidt, further.
The portable freestanding sign, I'm a little confused as to we struck it because there's no definition of what a portable freestanding sign is, so we struck it. Why don't we just create a definition?
The planning commission talked about that, and this is what they wanted to do. This was their recommendation.
Okay, I appreciate that, but I think that as council, if we are of mind to say, develop a definition, staff could prepare a definition and provide it to the P&Z, right?
Certainly, and then we did provide a few examples of definitions they could consider. And again, this is what they had recommended, but if you, as a council, want to send this back to planning commission, we'll address it.
Well, here's where I'm coming from. These portable signs, and there are examples around town. I can think of down here at the corner, there's two of them. Log Shop has one, PLCC has one. Those are the ones that come to mind, just off the top. And they are portable. There's wheels on them.
Absolutely.
They're meant to be wheeled out. They have their message and whatever, and then when they're done with them, they're meant to be pulled back. The problem is that they have a tendency to become permanent because they're not moved.
Well, I think two of them are permanent in my mind.
Well, and the other problem is that because it's not defined, there's no particular performance standards. I understand that they're saying you can't put them in the right-of-way, but in some instances, even if they're not in the right-of-way, if you, for example, down here at County 11 and 4, depending on where they set those signs, there's a site clearance issue regarding traffic oncoming, and you know, if you're in a position, you're looking, you're not seeing something that's blocked because of that sign. Sure. Just a thought. I'm just saying, if they're portable, and they should not be allowed to become permanent fixtures. If they want to, if the P&Z says, well, they should be permanent fixtures, then calculate that into their allowable.
Correct. Well, and this ordinance too says that those temporary portable signs are supposed to be by permit 45-day maximum per year. They've been up permanently.
Yeah.
You know, and so, I mean, the planning commission recognizes there's problems with that, and they're just struggling with how to fix it.
Well, part of it's an enforcement issue, I believe, because if you've got the language that says, hey, 45 days, pull them out. But I'm even wondering if that's realistic, because some of them sit there with nothing on them for long periods of time.
I think Councilman Schmidt is a reason that might be hard to enforce is that there is no definition.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
Creating
saying.
that definition, yeah.
So I would suggest that the council, if they understand what I'm saying, I would throw this back to staff and say, develop a definition, bring it to P and Z. I don't have any problem with passing on this amendment now, but I'm just saying that, this has got to be addressed, because otherwise, there's no sense having it in there.
Councilman Black?
I agree with that. I agree with that analysis.
I have one other question.
Yes, I'm sorry.
If I understand the minutes of the P and Z, when the resort was at the P and Z meeting, there was discussion, as I understand it, that the staff was going to work with them to figure out where they can put up their banners?
Down at the corner, yes, Jerry and I were gonna actually go out and mark the right-of-way so that they didn't put those banners on the right-of-way. We haven't done that yet, but that is our plan. I mean, the last one, they said they wouldn't put it on the right-of-way. 4 days later, they had signs, banners on the right-of-way, on the curb line. I mean, we all know that's the right-of-way. And we pointed that out to Jeff, and he said he'd work with us, and that sort of thing. It hasn't happened since then, but it needs to happen before the banners start going up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. That was my understanding, that they
Yep.
were going to work with the resort to see if there was some way to take care of the issue, but
Historically, the issue of banners and signage has been a long-standing issue at planning and zoning since before I was on planning and zoning. This goes back quite a few years. And it was an issue that was constantly, when Mike was, and I'm sure the same thing with you, it goes back years and years and years. The question, I guess, we as a council need to give planning and zoning some direction. Obviously, banners are, it's a part of the up north character. I mean, you go around to all of the bars in every place around here, they all have banners all over the place. And when you come into Breezy Point, it's almost like we're trying to put a hardship on the businesses around here. The banners come in, they're free advertising, they get them from the distributors and things like that, for special events, or they have them up. And it's a good form of entertainment. The question is, are we trying to develop a comprehensive solution for an unknown problem? Is it really a problem with banners in the city of Breezy Point? That's the question that's really on the table. How much of a problem is it? Would we be better off eliminating a lot of the verbiage on banners and let the marketplace move forward with what they have that makes their business function? If a guy has banners all over the place, it's going to look tacky, and he's probably going to lose business. If he has a nice, neat, clean looking business, it's going to draw people in. So it's in his best interest to control the banners himself. And we're having a heck of a time trying to please everybody. And I think at this point, we're pleasing nobody. So I guess I'd be looking for direction from the city council as to which way to tell planning and zoning to go, because they have been dealing with this for 15, 20 years, and we're at this point.
I recall when Billy's, before it was Billy's, came in for a permit. And P&Z got into all sorts of contortions trying to determine things like landscaping, siding, roof color. All of these things came into play. Now, if you're telling me they should be plastered up with banners, then I'm saying, why do we go through all sorts of contortions as a city, demanding certain kinds of siding, certain kinds of landscaping, certain kinds of roofing? In fact, if I recall, his roof is the wrong color. And when that was discovered, nobody did anything. You know, the thing was up and in place, so.
And, yeah, and there was also a time when they were trying to regulate the color of the tarps people were using in their yard. They didn't want blue tarps.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a case where are we getting over the top on some of the requirements? And, you know, the siding and stuff like that, there are some benefits, you know, to a nice, neat-looking city that has merit. And maybe we want to readdress some of the things that we have in our planning and zoning to make it a little bit more user-friendly as far as encouraging growth and that kind of stuff. What I'm trying to do here is to not only make us a business-friendly community by eliminating some of these regulations that we have on the books that have little or no benefit. And I see, you know, the banners as being one of those. Some of the other things dealing with the log siding and this kind of stuff, and the classic up north look, which is really hard to define, has been somewhat of a problem over the years to explain to people when they want to come in here and build.
Well, I don't disagree with you, Mayor, but the problem is, you know, when the mindset changes over time from what it was when that sign ordinance was looked at, and for example, Billy's, when that facility was permitted by the city, and evidently now we're gravitating to, well, I remember one of the members of the P&Z got all kicked out of shape because there was a restriction put on these banners that were plastered up on the building, and I think that person made the comment that he likes to see them because they make his mouth water. And I thought, okay, that's fine, but I didn't know we were in the business of trying to get people to salivate as they drive down County Road 11.
I'm sure Neil Narveson would disagree with you, but that's. But, and I think, yeah, I think the point is, we've been struggling with this for years, and I don't think we're going in the right direction on it. I would like to see us give some better definition to relax a lot of the restrictions that we have on these banners, allow freestanding banners. The resort has a very valid point. All of their buildings are, you know, a quarter mile away from County Road 11, and that's where their main source of advertising is. Obviously, you know, you're not going to see a place like Ivan's with banners all over the front because it's a white table place. When I go and look at a bar someplace up north, and it's got, you know, welcome fishermen, you know, Coors Light, this and that, you know, that's kind of the friendly atmosphere that you want to see in an up north bar. And I do disagree saying that the banners is not part of the up north look. I think it is a fundamental part of the up north look. And so I would like to see us give some definition. Speaking directly to our ordinance here, I fully agree with Councilman Maroney. Just by striking "and shall not be freestanding," it doesn't really correct it. I think the intent there was that it will correct it, but when you're reading it without having the what's the word I want to use here? Without having the hindsight behind you, you know, it suddenly does not make sense with what they're trying to do here. So anyway, that being said, we have a motion and second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of ordinance 1502?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
I also agree that I oppose it. So the direction I would like Councilman Bakken to take back to planning and zoning should be a consensus that we need to relax our requirements on banners, maybe even eliminate issues with banners. Is that agreeable?
I wouldn't agree to that. I think there has to be a restriction as to how many banners. Would you agree that 100% coverage of the surface of a building is a little
I think it looks
over the
tacky.
top?
I think it's over the top, and I think
So
it
what
looks tacky.
percentage of the building should be covered?
Is that something we should be governing?
Well, the question is, what percentage should be allowed to be covered?
And my question is that something that we should be governing? Should that not be left up to the property owner, to the
Okay.
manager of that business?
So what you're saying is if the property owner wants to cover 100% of his siding with banners, you're okay with that?
If he wants to do that, it would, in my opinion, it would look tacky. But if that's the image he wants to present, then let him present that image. Like I was saying, a person like, a white tablecloth place like Ivan's, they're not gonna do that.
Mr. Mayor, may I say something?
Councilman Lockett.
May I address Mr. Narveson quickly?
No, this is just between us now, right now.
My observation would be simply this. I don't think Mr. Narveson would do that, nor do I think Mr. Spiza would do that, or for that matter, the convenience store or the hardware store. End of story.
That's exactly my position as well. Just because we would allow 100% does not mean they're gonna do it.
If I may say something.
I'll get to you next.
Sometimes you do have to lead those who will go astray on the right path. And so by having some restrictions may help deter what could potentially happen.
Okay?
Not saying eliminate it, not saying 100%. But we're in the right direction. I mean, as of now, we allow 3 per building. Perhaps as the P&Z were trying to levitate to by allowing freestanding, maybe it's still 3 banners, but they don't have to be on the face of the building. Maybe that's where the direction is going. But then do we want to allow 3 freestanding banners? Those are the types of questions that P&Z needs to address. But I think we still need to have limitations to avoid the what
Okay? So the question is, what would be a good limitation to give them to work with? I don't want to turn this into a planning and zoning meeting, but I think right now, planning and zoning is struggling. And I think they need the direction from the council.
Without me being in the latest workshops or public hearings, I would probably stick to the 3 per primary structure and allow up to 3 total on the property, either being freestanding or being on the building. But that's me speaking without having previous knowledge of discussions.
Commissioner Schmidt, would you have a
Well,
number
I
you
think there
wanna
has to
throw
be
out?
some kind of a limitation on leaving up banners. You can say welcome fishermen, and if the thing is up on October 1st, I think, that
I agree with that.
that might be a stretch, but I also think there should be a definition on portable.
Okay, so the consensus of city council that we will request Councilman Bakken bring back to planning and zoning, as he is the liaison, is to come to a balance of the number, and we're saying should be around 3. And they could be either on the building or freestanding. That seems like a consensus. Okay,
Yes.
that's the direction I will be giving to you.
That's the charge I will take to the planning commission, and I'm sure that they'll be able to legislate appropriate controls for our.
Okay, 'cause I would really like to see this eventually get put to bed so that it's amicable not only to the public, but also to the businesses. Okay. Next item of business, administrator and staff reports. We have a request for Highview Campground for 3-2 sale malt liquor license. City Council is asked to approve and renew the 3.2 on-sale malt liquor license for Highview Campground. All necessary paperwork has been received. Chief Merschman has completed and cleared the background check. Permit renews May 7th, 2015 through May 6th, 2016. I'll entertain a motion to approve the renewal of the 3.2 on-sale malt liquor license for the Highview Campground.
I'll make that motion.
Second to that motion?
Yes.
Any discussion? Councilman Roney?
None at this time.
Councilman Buchan? Councilman Schmidt?
We just had some people in here addressing Highview and with the suggestion that they may not be in compliance with permits provided to them. And I don't know why we would approve an on-sale malt liquor license if indeed they aren't in compliance with permits that have been prior issued. I think that council has discretion in this manner to use this as a leverage to find out, A, from staff, are they out of compliance? Well, if they are, they should be in compliance prior to us giving them a permit.
I think I can see your point. However, at this point, we do not know whether they are in compliance or out of compliance. And I guess the avenues for getting them into compliance, I don't think we should hold hostage their request for their annual license renewal until we get more information on the compliance.
If I may, and I agree with what Rod was going. Highview is under a CUP, correct?
I believe so. I'm not sure. Is it? I don't know. I mean, I know Jerry's done some research and
And I've done some research on it as well, and it is very, very confusing.
With Otto, with the new statements that we've heard tonight, it's hard for me to decline based on an observation that we have not had. And that's next year it could very well come up, and I hope that staff takes this matter and investigates it. But at this point, it's hard to, as the mayor indicated, hard to deny something based on a statement that we've heard tonight.
Yeah, I guess I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
And it will come up next year. I would suspect, Joe, that if we have 12 months, it should be possible to get this thing sorted out.
with any luck. Tom did, I know, spend quite a bit of personal time on this issue, and I know he was confused with what he found, and Jerry spent some time too, and the record's not very clear.
The
And
file is about this thick.
but we will certainly look into it and see if we can figure it out.
Any other comment, Councilman Buchan?
No.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next item of business is a Lucas II donation. Essentia Health Foundation and Pleasureland RV Community Fund has committed, Essentia has committed $5,000 and RV Community Fund has committed $2,500 toward the purchase of a second Lucas II automatic CPR device assigned to paramedic officer Joe Garcia. Kevin, would you care to add further comment to this?
Only that this is about halfway to our goal, and I've got other requests out pending responses.
entertain a motion to accept the donation from Ascension
would,
Health Foundation.
I would move that we accept the donations from Essentia and Pleasureland RV Community Fund, and instruct Mayor that you provide a letter under your signature thanking both of these donors for their generosity.
Yes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We will accept the donation. Next item of business is the sale of the 2004 Ford Explorer. Ford Explorer has been being retired from service, and we're going to be putting it out for bids. Accept the motion to put the 2004 Ford Explorer up for bids.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Any discussion, Councilman Maroney?
No.
Councilman Schmidt?
There isn't any bullet holes in that thing, is there? No, a little rust. A little rust.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
It's the 2004 Ford Explorer up for bid. Park Committee appointment. We have an application from Brad Emmons to serve on the Park and Recreation Committee. He's had extensive experience with youth hockey and also football. And we really welcome having somebody with his experience and a male participant to join the group. With open terms, he could serve to the end of 2016 or 2017. He has chosen to serve to the end of 2017. Accept a motion to appoint Brad Emmons to the Park and Recreation Committee.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion?
Just a quick question, he's retired, but I didn't see in his application where he worked as.
He was a fire chief, and I think it was Brooklyn Park, is that correct? Do you remember, Kathy? Hutchinson, okay.
Okay.
Okay. I did notice that he, in filling out his application, he said no, that he doesn't have time to do this, but his comments are, "I'm retired, I have time," so I think he just checked the wrong box. But that happens. All those in favor?
Aye.
Welcome, Brad Emmons. Next item of business is golf cart fleet permit. Evidently, there's been an inquiry about fleet permits for golf carts. The code provides for these issues, for these in section 70.043C2. This section requires that liability insurance be provided and available for each vehicle in the fleet. The city has not set fees for golf cart fleet permits for a number of years, as the rate was set the same as individual carts. With a fleet being licensed at the same time, we would have a listing for all the carts that will be used on city streets in one application, so it would save a lot. Our current fee resolution for 2015 did not include a fleet golf cart permit, so resolution 1510 has been provided for the council to set this fee. The fee is going to be for a fleet of no less than 5 golf carts, the price of $35 a year. Each additional cart at the time of application would be $7 per cart per year. And golf carts that would be added at a later date would be charged the individual fee. I'll accept a motion for resolution 1510.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion, Councilman Maroney?
Each cart will have its own license,
Yes.
and if they are rented, are they still liable to hold a certificate of insurance either from the...
We'd want a certificate, well, the code requires that they have a certificate of insurance with them, so yes, we'd like a certificate for every cart.
Agreed.
Councilman Schmidt?
I'm not in favor of this ordinance, and the simple reason is if we're charging the citizens of this community $10, I fail to see the logic to charge a fleet $7. And it's like I mentioned to Joe in a note, I don't want to sound like I'm, swallowing elephants and choking on gnats when it comes to dollars, but We're not talking that much. We're talking, $15
True.
difference. It's gonna be passed on to who's ever renting the thing anyhow.
Well, and like I said in the email to you, we haven't had the resort license their carts. They're supposed to be licensed, and they have as a fleet in the past. Enforcement becomes a bigger key, in trying to get these vehicles licensed. And we were just trying to find an incentive to try to get that done. I'm open to $10 a piece. I'm open to, $9 a piece, whatever you folks want.
Well, I
That's
think
fine.
either we drop it down for the citizenry, make it the same, or boost it up, and it would seem to me it'd be easier to boost it up and make it same.
Yeah, I mean, when we went to $10 per cart, that was basically our cost by the time we figured in staff time and faxes and the cost of the permit itself. I mean, we're not making money at $10.
No, and I understand the enforcement bit, but wasn't the idea of getting people like Maroney over here to get his permit? Not only keep him honest, but keep him safe?
Well, there was a little of that too, yes.
Yeah. And I don't know which one would be the harder task, but
And I think Otto, and Joe can maybe correct me on this one, but, when we do a bulk of them at one time, it's not doing 5 individuals. It's a lot easier to process the paperwork. And that's what the reduced processing is, that you're bringing multiples in at one time. It's reducing staff time from coming in 1 today, 1 tomorrow, 1 the next day, 1 the following day. You bring us in 5, our staff saves time. We'll probably actually we could potentially make more money, again, not in it for the money, on doing this type of deal than doing them individually.
well, I just feel it should be same. I just, have a hard time believing why we're gonna say to you, Michael, you gotta pay 10, and the guy with the fleet gets by with, $7 a cart. I don't think it's gonna make a dime's worth of difference, no pun intended,
You may be absolutely right.
to have them come in and get the permits. I mean, if they're gonna, for $15, I mean, come on. It just doesn't seem right.
Councilman Buchan.
I have to agree with that. I really would. Same thing. Everybody's treated alike.
I agree a lot with what Councilman Maroney is saying, is that the economy of scale is such that you bring in one document with 30 golf carts on it, all described, and all be covered under the same insurance policy. It makes the city's work just slightly less. And it's just going to be the incremental cost of getting the permits out. What it does do, I think, is provide that umbrella to encourage the resort with their multitude of golf carts to get those licensed, so that when people are driving those on the streets and around the neighborhoods, that they would have a license on them, and that we would know that they're covered with insurance. Similarly, if somebody wanted to set up a business renting golf carts for people to drive around the city back and forth, it would provide that umbrella so that it could be handled easier. And I don't see it being a burden on the individual because of the difference in price. You have the same thing with fleet licensing of vehicles. The fleet licensing is still cheaper than the individual licensing.
If I may add, this issue came up with a person that rents golf carts, 2 individuals for a weekly basis. And that's where it came up, and that's why they asked the question. And they have not licensed them in the past.
So I think this is going the right direction to try and get these people under some sort of umbrella with responsibility and insurance and liability to cover that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I believe the resort restricts their carts to the court.
They may say they restrict it, but I've seen them, driving around
I understand.
Yeah.
It's the
They're
police,
not probably gonna license their car.
The housekeepers drive them up and down the street with towels and what have you.
They're driving back and forth to the,
Grounds do.
Yep.
any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Motion is defeated.
I would move the ordinance 1510 by making the fee at $50 per year for 5 golf carts, and for each additional at $10 per cart.
So you would,
Just change the 7 to 10, and 35 to 50. Then it's same.
Is that a motion you're looking for a second?
second.
further discussion? Councilman,
No further remarks.
Councilman Maroney?
I don't think it's needed, because at this point, that's the same exact cost as a single, so therefore, there's no need to have any language for a fleet. It does nothing for the city. It does clarify anything. An individual golf cart has to be licensed for $10. There's no difference, as you mentioned, it's the same, so it's just additional language, it's not needed.
Councilman Baca?
Nothing. Offer.
Call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
I am opposed. So motion is defeated. So at this point, I guess we're saying we won't have a fleet,
Fleet policy. We'll just be all listed as individuals. At $10, everybody's treated the same.
Yep.
So my understanding is if you're gonna run a golf cart on the street, you gotta have a permit.
That's correct. If you cross the street, like from one side of the golf course to the other, you don't need a permit.
Okay.
No.
And then it becomes a question of enforcement. And as I understand it, the new stickers are easily discernible.
Yep, they're blue, they say 15 and then a number on them. The 15 designates the year. Each year will have a different color.
Okay. That completes the agenda business, so the meeting is adjourned.
All right, thank you, sir.